have a lot of frequently asked questions by people looking to rent a property. If you're looking at the moment, you'll know that it's a super busy rental market and it's really difficult to find a property at the moment, and you might be a great tenant and you're still not getting that property, and that's what we're getting a lot of questions about at the moment. So what I would recommend is being super organised. So register on websites for your area that you're interested in, your budget, the type of property. So as soon as something goes online, you can just jump on that, and phone is good. Get in touch with the landlord or the letting agency, pick up the phone, have a chat with them. Be super organised, have all the information together, be flexible on viewings, and just really be as keen as you can. If you have everything in place, then it's putting you above people that maybe don't, but competition is strong, so don't be disheartened. And if you do lose out on one property, it's not necessarily because you wouldn't make a great tenant, it's just that the competition is fierce. So keep at it. Be organised, get as much information as you can, and just be flexible with your viewing times so that you can maybe get in there and be one of the first to have a look at a property. It will vary depending on the agency that you're renting with, but more often than not, if you're a student, you'll need to provide a guarantor, and that guarantor will need to be based in the UK. There are options some agencies might consider about paying rent in advance, but generally most students will be able to provide a guarantor. If you are in employment, you will need to provide a reference from your employer, and if you've rented before, then from a previous or current landlord. If there's issues maybe on affordability, again, you would need to be able to provide a guarantor. It maybe links back to what I was saying before about being really organised and having all of this information. So if you know what you need into your circumstances, then when you're looking at making an application, you can have all of those things ready. As a tenant, you can give your notice at any time. So literally that can be from one day after the lease starts to 5 years after the lease starts, and it's 28 days notice at any time. So as a tenant, you can give notice at any time. You don't need to have a reason. So you can kind of move on, you're not tied in. Some people think they might be tied in for a kind of 6 or a 12-month lease, which had happened previously, but that's no longer the case. So tenants can give their notice at any time. So that's registered in a tenant deposit scheme. So that means that that is kept securely throughout your tenancy and is held by a third party. You should receive notification of where it's been held and receive a certificate. And then you will have documentation throughout your tenancy where that's kept. When it comes to the end of your lease, a final inspection will be completed and any proposals would be made for the deduction of a deposit. If you don't agree with those deductions, then the deposit scheme have an independent adjudicator and they would make the final decision. So it's completely independent if you don't agree with a proposed deduction. So nobody can withhold any kind of deposit until everybody agrees. Potential or existing tenants quite often will ask me about the utilities, and certainly at the moment where utilities are just a hot topic and people are anxious about kind of spiralling costs and how much they can afford, then it's becoming more of a pertinent question than ever before. So it's difficult to say how much utilities might cost because every individual or group of people that are sharing a flat will be different. Are you all at home all day every day, or are you all at work every day? So it is difficult to gauge. What every rental property will have is an energy performance certificate that will provide you with an indication of what the utility cost should be. So it's not hard and fast, as I say. Different people and the way they live at different times of the year will vary, but the energy performance rating, the higher the rating, the more efficient the property is. So that's things like it will have maybe a new boiler, good insulation, energy efficient lighting, double glazing. So all of those things that should contribute to maybe keeping utilities down. So if you were concerned about that, I would say as always try and look for a property with a good energy performance rating. They go from A to F. A is where you want to be. There's maybe not many properties in this city that will get you an A rating, but certainly kind of around about a C can be achieved by most properties. I think whilst it's lovely and charming, the original properties of Edinburgh can be a little bit drafty, and those lovely high ceilings can really kind of drain out the heating. So think about the type of property if it really is an issue for you. But yeah, the energy performance rating will give you an indication of the utilities that you can hopefully be looking at spending. In terms of bills, you obviously need to pay your rent. You will also be responsible for gas, electric, council tax if that's applicable, broadband, TV licence, if that's applicable, and if you're taking your own contents into the property, then you're responsible for insuring your own contents. The landlord will cover the building insurance and any contents of their own, but if you've got lots of fancy equipment that you're taking into a property, then you would need to insure that yourself. Other things as a tenant that you're responsible for would be any damage that you may cause. So if things break down because they're old, then that's the landlord's responsibility. If they stop working because you've broken them as a tenant, unfortunately that means that's your responsibility. If you spill a cup of coffee onto the carpet and the stain won't come out, then that's your responsibility. If there are some scuff marks on a hallway on the decor and you've been in the property for a number of years, then that's general wear and tear, and that's not something that you would be responsible for. But if there are significant stains or marks that are above and beyond what we would class as wear and tear, then as a tenant, then that would be your responsibility. You can either choose to replace or repair those things yourself, or at the end of a tenancy they would be deducted from your deposit. So that's as a tenant what you would be responsible. Things like replacing light bulbs. As a tenant you're responsible for replacing light bulbs, batteries in items. That's a tenant's responsibility as well. So that's what the general day-to-day running of a property is a tenant's responsibility, but if anything goes wrong and breaks down, then the landlord will look after that for you. So you might want to redecorate one of the bedrooms or put up some pictures, put up some shelves. So your lease will say that these things shouldn't be done without the permission of your landlord. So if you're wanting to make any of those changes, then always contact your landlord or your letting agent and they can check with the landlord for you. It will come down to the preference of your landlord. Some of them will be more than happy for you to make those changes as long as you revert back to how the property was originally when you moved in, or deal with any damage that may be caused. Some landlords are happy for you to leave the decor as it is. Maybe they like your choice more than they like their own. So it will be the landlord's personal preference, but it is always worth asking the question, as long as you are mindful that any changes that you do make are made to a high standard and they're not impacting the material level of the property. Hopefully that was helpful, but if you do have any more questions or are looking for more information, then please visit our website at espc.com/lettings.